Hi there, welcome to my website. I'm Dr. Michael Lee. Today we're very fortunate to have AJ, a professional strength and conditioning coach, to join us to address a common problem, low back pain in runners. So AJ, what are we going to talk about today?
So today we're going to address some hip extension primarily. You know, that's a big issue with runners that get some low back pain, is not being able to get to adequate hip extension. So we'll go through a self-assessment, a stretch, and then some ways to really drive home that stability as well.
All right. Now, for those who are watching right now, why do we care about hip extension? Or I guess what that is anyway. Hip extension mainly talk about how we bring our legs actually behind us. Most of us, because we sit a lot, so the muscles around the hips got a little tight, so we can actually cannot have that full stride in our running gait. So today we talk about how we open this up so we can actually get more power from our big gluteal muscle to give us more distance and make our running a little easier. So AJ, why don't we start off with the assessment?
Yeah, so one of my favorite self-assessments is just an inline lunge or a split squat position. So I'm going to have you kind of demonstrate this for us. We'll start, we want to just stagger our stance, so one foot in front of the other. We want to get enough space so we can drop straight down and not have any transition front to back. You know, so we can say, 2 or 3 feet wide, and then staying in good posture. All Michael's going to do is drop down, lightly touch the knee, and then stand back up. So when we're looking, we're going to see if this knee rotates in and out. That's going to show some instability at the hip and the ankle as well. We're also going to look from the side. So if Michael's turning from the side, we want to make sure, go and switch your feet for me. So we want to make sure that this hip stays in good extension with the legs, so we're not seeing any of the back move or twist or rotate, which if you have a mirror at home, this is perfect to do in front of a mirror. So he's going to drop down nice and slow, lightly touch, and then stand right back up. So you can see that he maintains pretty good hip extension, could be a little bit better. But from here, we're going to turn this into an active stretch next to really drive home more hip extension, so you can kind of see how this improves over time. All right, you want to do the stretch?
All right, yeah, show me. I've been sitting a lot.
So the stretch, we're going to go right back into that inline lunge position, but we're going to start on the ground.
Okay.
So go ahead and drop down to the pad.
Yep.
We want to have enough space in the feet so we have right angles. So we get a good square angle at the lower leg, a good square angle at the bottom leg. Dig the toe in, and I want him to get as tall as he can. So this is really going to start to drive home this hip. So instead of arching back like a lot of people do to drive into the hip, I actually want him to try to tuck the tailbone down and activate that glute on this side as hard as he can. Just flex that glute as hard as he can, and that's going to help relax and release those hip flexors in the front that prevent a lot of that hip extension. And then Michael's going to also work on his breathing here. This is a good point to get good posture, good hip extension, and good breath as well. So do you want to talk about breathing for a second?
Yep. So well, some of you may have watched my previous video on how to breathe through your nose and your abs to get some pressure off the neck. So this one's pretty essential, or breathing is pretty essential in this one. So when you're in this position, one thing we want to watch for is how easy for you to breathe. If you find yourself clenching your teeth or holding your breath just to get balanced in, I'll just say, making a wider stance, just make sure you can get good breathing first. If after you are established that, then try to move the feet closer so to challenge your balance, but in the meantime, maintaining that breathing. Make sure you're relaxed, your jaw is relaxed, and all the breathing is coming from your abdomen. And the other part, to open this hip flexor up then, and a good thing AJ mentioned, good positioning. If you're in good positioning, then off the bat, if you just touch your core, your core is activating just to keep you in that proper position.
I completely agree with everything you're saying.
Okay, good. I'm here to say that. So,
Yeah.
so that's a good active stretch. And AJ, so how long would we want to hold this for?
So we want to go about 5 or 6 really deep, slow breaths on each side, kind of switch it back and forth a few times. And once you're comfortable with your balance in there, then we can add a little bit of movement to that if it's just rocking forward a few inches at a time, not losing hip extension. But once we're in this position, we get good balance, we're just going to shift everything forward and back. So if you notice, the back's not really doing a whole lot, the core staying engaged, and that hip staying really nice and active, and we're getting some good ankle mobility on the front side as well. So that's probably the next step after you feel comfortable in this inline lunge position, opening up the hip extension piece.
All right. Thanks, AJ.
Yep.
So this will wrap up our first session of this video 3-part series. So on the next video, we're going to talk more about how to really hone into that hip extension movement to get you more power on the row. Until then, see you next time.